Well, this review's been a long time coming. Most other outlets have got the reviews out before or soon after general release, but for us pleb channels we have to wait for general release and pay out with real money like everyone else. But here we are riding high in the hype wave and the YouTube algorithm. So, what's so good about this game and why is everyone playing it? Well, for me, this game is basically the new Vampire Survivors and Dave the Diver rolled into one. Not because the game is particularly like either of those games, but because it's stealing so much of my time. So much so, I've not made any content this last week. This game just sucks up time. I've spent nearly 30 hours this week just messing around. Now usually I'm lucky and maybe get 10 or so hours of gaming in a week. And most of that is taken up with testing. This has all just been me gaming and immersing myself into the game. Now the question on everyone's lips, is this just a Pokemon ripoff? Well, yeah, kinda. Sure, there's lots of talk online about possible AI being used to generate rip-off pals that basically look like a weird cousin of a Pokemon, but it's also a bit of a rip-off of Ark Survival in that you have to go and explore, develop a base, capture said Pokemon-esque critters. It's a mishmash of so many other game genres, and it looks a bit like Ubisoft were involved when it comes to the graphics. But then, Immortals Phoenix Rising looks a bit like a rip-off of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I'm going to give Palworld a bit of a break on that basis. For me, I rarely, if ever, support early access games. But in this case, I could not buy into the hype. Especially when initially everyone thought this game was only going to survive a day or two before it got Nintendo'd out of existence. But here we are, some 7 days later, and it's still here. Now, is the game worth all of its hype? Yeah, sure I suppose, once you've accepted its early access, and it's got lots of janky bits in the game right now. But in general, the game plays pretty well. Now, before I go too far into this video, I want to take time to give a shout out to my 2 handheld gaming members. I feel I don't shout you guys out enough, and I'm sorry for that. So, a big thanks for both Nigel Rayner and AssCrackBurger69. Your continued support is hugely heartwarming, and if anyone else wants to join you in supporting the channel, why not consider a membership? It starts from only 99p. That's about $1.26. And the channel, I think, sees about 50% of that after the YouTube cut. But every penny that I make will be ploughed back into buying hardware that will be reviewed on the channel for everyone's benefit. Now, back to the review. As most of my viewers already know, I'm a handheld gamer. The clue's in the channel after all. And this game needs a relatively beefy solution. Minimum spec being a GTX 1050, which doesn't sound that powerful, but remember, that's right around the max that the Steamdeck can manage. So lesser handhelds will struggle. And I've seen that firsthand when I installed the game on my Ioneo AirPlus 1250U, and the game barely managed 1 FPS at 720p lowest settings, and I'd also tweaked my power profile, pushing way past the 15W limit. On the deck, however, it'll manage a mix of medium to low settings at 720p for a fairly stable 40 FPS if you don't set a power limit. In my tests, I've found you can get away with as low as 9 watts on the APU if you select 720p in all the lowest settings. However, leaving the default power at up to 15 watts will see that 40 FPS in most of the game. But if you go to a busy area or a cluttered base, like I have, you can get to chug down at the 20s now and then. And in big battles it can also slow down. Now, I hope this will be smoothed out with future game updates. Vampire Survivors, after all, ran great until it got to the late phases of the game, and then it chugged down into single digits. And that, by and large, has all been patched out over time. So there is, in my view, plenty of hope for Palworld to improve, especially given all the huge sales volumes and all the cash Pocket Pair must be raking in. So that's pretty much the end of the review. I never went over a lot of stuff. I'm really showing you footage here, and I'm showing how well it plays on the Steamdeck. And I've got tons of extra footage of my extended gaming session, as every gaming session of this game has been. So if you want to watch more of it, I've created a new playlist that I'll mostly just be playing through games that I'm enjoying. So I'll stick a card at the top of the video and you can click on that and watch some more game footage if you wish. And while I've got your attention, why not hit that like button if you've enjoyed this video, or hit the dislike button if you think it sucked. But most of all, smash that subscribe button to see what I get up to next. I'd particularly like to know if you liked the slightly more scripted format of this video. Most of my vids are fairly off the cuff and a game as a review with a pretty loose structure, but if you like this scripted style, why not let me know in the comments. As for the script, you might be interested to know that I wrote this script and recorded this script solely on my Chewy U-Book X, my new small laptop tablet. Now, using the magnetically connected keyboard, I taped the whole script with not too many errors. Actually, in fact, less than my recently purchased mechanical keyboard, another card above, and I loved that keyboard. I also recorded this script directly onto my Chewy using the wireless Boya lavalier mic setup that I've reviewed some months ago. It's great, as the USB receiver plugs right into the Chewy's USB-C port and the wireless mic connects to it. No fuss, for what I feel is giving a pretty good sound setup. Again, I'll stick a card on the top if you're interested in any of those videos. Now, none of these recommendations are sponsored or paid for in any way. My views are entirely my own. I only review what I purchase, or would purchase myself. And I use the products I buy, so I think you can rely on the reviews because you can hear and see the results in all my videos. I run this channel quite cheaply. If you're interested in setting up your own little YouTube presence, I'd be happy to share my experiences so far, if you want to hear them. And that's about all for this video. Thanks for sticking around this late in the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.